Hey, everybody, Kevin here with Pursuing Pixels, and welcome back to another edition of Save It for the Cast, and you know the drill by now, although this week it's just going to be John and I talking a little video game action. I'll be kicking the ball over to the two of us in just a little bit here for some conversation, kind of all over the map. We kind of spin off, where we start off talking a little bit about Randall just got what he calls a dumb phone. I don't know if that's, I'm assuming that's not the, proper term, but just like a non-smartphone that basically is app free apart from like GPS and texting and a few other things like playing music and stuff like that. And then we talk a little bit about my new rigged up setup in my kitchen, which I think I talked about maybe last week or even on a proper episode. But I got my actual computer set up over here now, so I'm actually editing the podcast in my little, pseudo retro kitchen setup, which has been a blast. Although my GameCube hasn't been working, but I've been playing some stuff on my PS1, on my PS2, but particularly been playing some PS1 games. But we talk a little bit of just kind of all sorts of games, little Carol Blaster, Mutant Year Zero. Just some random stuff, little Hades, and then at the very end, we kind of spin off into a little Final Fantasy discussion, just kind of randomly. So, I'll be kicking the ball over to that in just a little bit here after I rattle off some of the stuff that I've been playing lately. I've been getting back onto the recording video train again, and recorded a few videos for some indie games that I really, really enjoyed the other day. So I wanted to give a shout out to those few games real quick. The first one that I guess I'll give a shout out to here, more so for the developer on this one as opposed to the game. Not that I didn't enjoy the game, but I would say this is on the lower tier of the spectrum of my enjoyment of their games. But the game is called Binky's Trash Service, and the developer is OnDev or OnDev. But I believe I've talked about a couple of their other games in the past on the podcast. The other ones, I've just in particular enjoyed a little bit more, but I think this is one of their earlier releases, and it's just kind of like a precision, not even so much a precision platformer, but a little bit of that with some exploration, and it's just like a super retro style in the same vein that a lot of their games are, very much like an 8-bit, not necessarily going for like an NES style or anything like that, but just like a really pleasing aesthetic, at least to me, and it's got a slammin' chiptune soundtrack and a bunch of different stages, and you're basically playing as this like little, I think, bird character, and you just have some pretty slick platforming abilities that take a little bit of getting used to, like the movement and momentum, but like in the same vein as like, in like New Super Mario Brothers, where you can like, be running in one direction and then pull back in the opposite direction and jump at the same time. You kind of do like a little backflip for some extra height. I don't think you can do a double jump, but you can wall jump, and it's just got like a super retro style in the sense there is some scrolling, but there are like just like hard cuts to where the screen will stop scrolling. And each stage is like a little mini, I don't want to say Metroidvania because you don't have to unlock anything, any abilities to get further or anything like that. You just have to find all the trash cans on a stage, and there's like a little HUD up in the top left corner that doesn't show you any of the level layout. It just shows you where all the trash cans are flashing. And then every time you just touch one, you just automatically not only like clear that trash can or whatever, but it saves that as a checkpoint. And at first I thought it was only the first time you like pass through that trash can, like while it was flashing. But even once it's like deactivated, if you pass through that, it still acts as a checkpoint. So it's just like a really great, fun little exploration platformer. I don't know if they're going to throw any combat into the mix, but there is some challenge, like there's spikes and stuff like that. But again, as soon as you, die, you just instantly respawn at the last trash can that you touch. So it's just really addictive little game. And like I said, it's on the lower end of my, like if you're going to check out some games from this developer, I definitely recommend checking out like Tress Bashers is the first one that caught my eye and my interest from them. But they have a ton of other games that I've really, really enjoyed. And this one's definitely worth checking out. It's only like $2 or $3. So don't, I'm not trying to undersell it either, but I'd just say like this isn't the first game to run out and try from this developer, I would say. And then another game that I fired up is a game called GunSpectre. I scooped this one up also for like $3 on Steam, and it's actually available on Switch now. I kind of scooped it up on Steam because I assumed it just seemed like a game that probably wasn't going to leave Steam or leave PC or whatever. So I was like, I'll just scoop it up here for $3. It's so cheap, but it's also only $3 on Switch. So I very well may end up scooping it up there just because I'll be more likely to potentially finish it off. But this is like a very like Game Boy Color inspired, at least with the, art style, although it's got like kind of like a letterboxed like widescreen aesthetic, which is really cool. But it's basically like a top-down Zelda-style game, like dungeon crawler, very much like the original Legend of Zelda. But it's like a twin-stick shooter in the vein of like a Smash TV or something like that. So it's just really, really cool. I've only played maybe a little bit. I haven't even cleared a single dungeon, but I've explored quite a bit of the overworld map. And this is actually the second time, like going back to record this video this time around. I had played maybe like, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes before and went a totally different direction and found a totally different dungeon the first time that I played, as opposed to when I fired it up for this video and played another, 20, 30 minutes. And just ended up exploring in a different direction just by happenstance and finding a totally different dungeon. And it just seems like I can't remember if there's 6 or 8 crystals that you have to find. So it seems like there's just going to be a set of dungeons and then maybe one final dungeon once you find all the crystals and bring them back to this pedestal that you find right at the beginning of the game. But it's just really slick. It's got a great sense of style. And I just love these games that like lean into that Game Boy or Game Boy Color aesthetic. It's not really necessarily leaning into the color side of things. I mean, there's definitely some reds and some different colors that I've seen, but it's kind of a bleaker setting. Like it's a lot of browns and grays and stuff like that. But I just really love the 8-bit chunky pixel art from that like Game Boy Color era. Yeah. And then the last game out of the 3 here that I recorded some videos for that I wanted to give a shout out to, and this one in particular just seems like a really, really special game, is called Cat and Onion. And this is just an awesome little like adventure platformer. There doesn't seem to be any kind of like challenge to the platforming outside of like the exploration and a little bit of puzzle solving, almost like Metroidvania style, but you're not necessarily getting abilities. You're almost like getting items like you would in like a point and click adventure. Like it really feels like it has that kind of pace to it. Coming from someone who hasn't really played a lot of point and click adventures, so take that with a grain of salt, but it just really feels like that kind of just like slow, leisurely pace, no real like, challenge to the game apart from just having to solve the little like, riddles and puzzles and stuff like that. But there's just so much charm in this game. The video I made, I was worried I was going to play through the whole thing. This is another game that's only like $2 or $3. And it is just amazing. You just play as this little cat. Like one of the first things you get is like some flour from this flower tree, but more like flour, like, for baking or whatever. And then you can throw that on certain walls that allow you to like, climb a little further up than you normally would when you're, you're able to kind of like hold down the jump button and clamber up a little bit. And just the animation, it's like really primitive on the pixel art, but the animation is like really detailed in the way, like almost like a Prince of Persia or something like that. Not necessarily in the movement, in that you're like moving, where your movement's dictated by the animation per se, but like when you're climbing up like a ledge, like it just has such a detailed extra little animation. And then your goal of the game seemingly at the start is just that you want to make some pancakes with your little squirrel friend. It's just got so much charm. And like I said in the video, I played like maybe 20, 30 minutes and I thought I was going to play the whole game. But you blast off in like a little spaceship or your little onion, which almost feels a little Pikmin inspired, with that onion and even like the look of it. And then it seems like it's just going to open up into a whole nother area that's going to have some puzzle platforming and characters to meet. And it's just got so much charm. I definitely recommend checking this one out. If you even like watch a quick little snippet of a trailer or some gameplay, and if it piques your interest at all, just dive in and check it out, because it really feels like it's going to be something special. Very much has like that kind of like a short hike energy. I don't know how else to describe it. And then it's totally different from that game, so that might not be quite the best touch point, but it's just really, really awesome stuff. And then the last game I just wanted to mention real quick, I'm already going longer than I intended to here, but they just put up a free like game trial for Disney Illusion Island. And this is a game that I've had my eye on forever, and I haven't tried any of these free game trials. And I was under the impression you were like you had a set amount of time, like you get 2 hours to play or something like that. But I think it's just like free to play like throughout this particular like window of time, because I didn't see anywhere where it was like counting down or anywhere in like the menu that showed I was playing like a trial version of the game. I was actually a little bit worried that I bought the game at first without realizing it, but I'm actually really glad that they put this up, because this is a game I'm always a sucker for. The Disney platformers, probably from back in like the Capcom NES days and even into the Super Nintendo era. But this is one that, just really caught my eye, and it has like the art style. There's a newer Disney or Mickey and Friends cartoon. I don't know what it's actually called, but when I would babysit my nephew, I would see it on and like while we were scrolling around looking for something to watch. And it's got like a really like almost like a comic strip art style to it with like a really, but modernized, but like just this really kind of bold art style. And then the gameplay really looks reminiscent of, the like Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends games, which took a little while to grow on me, to be fair, but I've really grown to like those games quite a bit, especially Rayman Legends. And to be fair, I haven't gone back to Rayman Origins in a long time, but Disney Illusion Island, I was not expecting it to be like more of a Metroidvania exploration platformer. And I was enjoying my time with it and everything. I probably played for another, like 20, 30 minutes. But it just is like a little bit slow paced, and I like unlocked a double jump and a wall jump, and you can play up to 4 players, which would be the appeal. Like I would definitely get this if like my nephew was interested in playing it or something like that. Like without hesitation, I would scoop this up because it's not bad by any means, but I had definitely had my eye on this one and hadn't seen the price go much below $40, or I'd seen like a physical copy here and there for like 30 or 35 and just never found like a clean enough looking copy. But now I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, okay, I can scratch that one off my list. Unless, like I said, if my nephew or, if there's some other particular reason to scoop it up, or if I see it for super cheap. But yeah, it's definitely not a bad game by any means, but it's not one that you need to rush out and check out if you're a fan of the old school Disney platformers or anything like that. Or for that matter, if you happen to think like, oh, it kind of looks like those Rayman games, it's definitely a little bit different, definitely has a slower pace to it. And it's solid, but it's just not anything that I need to, add to my shelf or add to the collection here. But like I said, before I started talking about this one here, I've already done more than enough rambling here, and I'll kick it over to John and I for a pretty lengthy conversation on our end as well. So, a little bit longer than usual for a save it for the cast here, but that's never a bad thing. So, I'll kick it over to John and I, like I already said, and until next week, we'll catch you then, and take care. Seriously, I've been debating, honestly, going Randall mode and trying to get one of those dumb phones,
It's not a bad
unplugging
idea.
a little bit. Because I, to be fair, I don't really get sucked down too many rabbit holes, but even still, I'll like find myself like watch some random drum video on YouTube, and all of a sudden I've watched 50 of them in a row, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, still don't know what time it is, and that's the whole reason I pulled out my phone.
If you just go back to like having a desktop computer where all the apps live, all of like the social things live, like it's amazing how much less you use it and how much you don't miss it at all. The
only problem for me with that is like I always like have a fantasy about even that, like I don't know if you saw that picture in the Discord I sent of like my kitchen table that I turned into a kind of makeshift like gaming station that I might move my Mac Mini out to.
Yeah.
But like I just don't like after sitting, especially all day at work, like then like sitting to game or whatever, it's just not, or to do anything for that matter, is not always my first choice. So like doing stuff on my phone, I can at least like lounge in like whatever position or lay down or whatever. But otherwise, I would love to have like a more like, hey, this is like my computer spot that I sit down and like log in for an hour every day or whatever, and plug in to whatever I want to plug into, and then call it a wrap.
It is
looking, but I am juiced to have.
Or that was like a good looking setup at least.
Yeah, thanks, man. I was just gonna say, I'm juiced to have that. My dad gave me that TV. He's like cleaning out the garage slowly but surely.
Oh.
And I thought it was gonna be a little bit. Right now, I have my Mac Mini hooked up to a different TV.
Right.
And I thought in the picture he sent me, it looked a little bit smaller than the one I have, and it's like it's not huge or anything, but it's probably like either a 32 or maybe it's like a 40-inch TV.
It's not small.
Yeah, and using that for a computer monitor is like a little bit obnoxious when you're sitting up kind of close to it. So this is like, at least I got it back on the further end of the table, so I'll be further away from it. And on the other hand, I'll have it like it's kind of in my living room kitchen thing, like you saw the setup sort of.
Yeah.
So like or not sort of, you saw it. So like I can like have football on or whatever, something on the TV while I'm like working on editing, where otherwise I have to feel like I have to like, my computer was in my bedroom. So it's like, or is still at the moment. So it feels like I have to like go into my dungeon to like edit the podcast and then, whatever.
No, it's good to like rearrange stuff and get a better feel for it. Like I've actually really enjoyed having the like computer on top of the organ, which was
I like that setup. I like that setup over there.
But like it also has become such a like easy thing for is like, all right, I'm waiting for something to load on the computer. I'm just gonna like flick on the organ and play like a little bit for in the time between. It's like really satisfying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I was just like, every now and then I sit at my kitchen table and have dinner, but I was like, I still have it pushed far away enough, and it's not like I'm like, if anybody was going to be like coming into town and staying, or if I was having anybody over, it's not, that TV's so light. It's actually like ridiculous how light that thing is.
Nice.
But nonetheless, it's not any smaller than the TV that I have. It's the exact same size. But it'll still be nice. But the bummer, I hooked up my GameCube today. It's not working, man. It turns on, but it won't read discs. I thought it was just the first game that I popped in. I was like, dang, I was just, for some reason, I was like itching to try Wave Race on there, the Blue Storm. I've played it once or twice before, but I was just like, I kind of feel like playing that right now, and giving it a try now that I can hook up a few more systems. But yeah, it just won't read the disc. I tried popping in. I only tried one other game, to be fair, but it just doesn't seem like it. It either says no disc or just a question mark.
Ugh.
So might have to end up buying another GameCube. I was like, at least I still have my Wii. And I was like, no, I got rid of my Wii because I was like, I have my GameCube to play my GameCube stuff, and then I have my Wii U to play my Wii and my Wii U stuff. So I don't need a Wii itself anymore. Mm-hmm. Especially because those Wii, I don't know if you remember this, but supposedly the Wii, like where it had the GameCube memory card slots on the top, it would like kind of overheat a little bit, and it could sometimes corrupt the memory card, or at least that was a thought to be an issue. Because that was my the white memory card that was like I think it was the 1016 blocks, if I'm not mistaken. That got corrupted at one point, and I lost all my save files on there.
Jesus.
So, and wasn't even able to like wipe it and like keep using it. It just didn't work anymore.
Oh, that sucks.
So, a little bit of a bummer. Yeah, my GameCube experience, a little bit of a bust. But my Dreamcast still works. I played that a little bit. That's actually the only thing I played, and I haven't actually tried that PS2 yet. I should probably give that a whirl.
Yeah.
Or the PS3, actually. I hooked that up too, but I didn't actually hook up the HDMI, and I haven't tried it since I think I told you guys, but like when the last couple times I tried it, this was like years and years ago, it would turn on for a few minutes and then it would overheat, or something would happen and it would just turn itself off. I just presumed it would overheat. And I read that if you stand it up vertically, that it can sometimes like gets a better airflow. It was the same thing with the PS4. It can sometimes help with that like disc reading issue. Although I'm starting to have issues again, even with it standing vertically. Like I just bought a couple PS4 games today. I ran out to the store and bought Caro Blaster and Mutant Year Zero. And when they were like installing, like the Mutant Year Zero actually like stopped at like the end a couple times, where I was like, oh shoot, does this disc messed up? But I looked at it, looks perfect. So finally got it to work after a minute. But I'm excited to get that because I almost bought it on Switch a few times. It's like a top-down, like I don't know if it's turn-based strategy or real time or some kind of like hybrid of the two. Mm-hmm. But kind of like a little bit more of like an adventure, like kind of in between. It almost looks like it has like a little bit of like a Mario and Rabbids kind of gameplay element, where you like have these like you explore a little bit and then you'll get into combat scenarios, but it's got a little more stealth. You can like sneak around some of the combat scenarios. And I think it's based off some like graphic novel or comic or something, but I've seen it on Switch a few times, but then I read that like the port apparently just runs like terrible on Switch.
Mutant Year Zero?
I think that's the name of it. It's Mutant something.
No, I think it is Mutant Year Zero. I know I have it on Epic. So
you know what? Maybe I have it on there too, now that you mention that. Yeah. But it's a game that looks like it would play pretty good with a controller. So I was like, you know what? I'll scoop this up. It was only like 13 or 12 or $13. So
nice.
Maybe 14. between that and Carol Blaster, it was like $25, so not too bad. Felt good to own Carol Blaster physical.
Yeah, that was definitely one that I've been meaning to play.
Yeah, I'm excited to check it out. Yeah, thanks for jumping on early today too. I'm kind of juiced to get this one in the can early. A little bit nervous because I keep hearing, like, right before we jumped on, I heard not nervous is not the right word, but I heard like a buzzsaw firing up a few times and some hammering, and I was like, oh great, somebody's gonna start mowing the lawn out back and blowing leaves around.
Yeah,
but it is what it is. No big deal.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
I was actually just listening to a podcast earlier where they were like talking about Shenmue, and they at one point, like, you could hear like a huge like engine rev up for a second. They clearly like edited it out, and the guy goes in, and there's a big motorcycle sequence or something like that. But I was dying.
Nice.
But what do you have on the docket for today?
I'll probably talk Hades 2 as like the main topic, but
I kind of forgot you've been playing that just because I keep seeing Glenn playing it on the Switch when I log on, and I forget that you're not usually playing on your Switch.
I don't get the live Glenn updates. That's how we've just been like texting each other about it. But man, yeah, it's so good. What a good game.
I actually almost bought. They had a physical copy of just original Hades for on PS5 at the store today, and it was only like $18, and I was like, I'm probably gonna get a PS5 eventually. I almost bought it, but I didn't.
That's tempting. Even like,
I know, for $18-19, but then I was like, once I open that can of worms, I've almost bought a PS5 game a few times, and I was like, once I open that can of worms,
yeah,
I'm gonna number one, I'm gonna then end up buying a PS5. I'm not gonna be able to restrain myself for very long, and I'll just start buying games left and right for it. You know? So
Monster Hunter Wilds is so good though, dude.
It's very tempting, especially now that my PS4 is causing a little more issues with the discs and stuff like that. Again, I'm very, very tempted because, I was at a different game store the other day, and they had I almost bought Returnal because it went down the last few times I saw it there. It was like $26.99, and I almost grabbed it. And this time it was $16.99, so it's like going down even lower. And I was like, man, I'm seeing some cheap enough PS5 games where it's like I could build up a collection for that.
$16 for Returnal seems like a great price right now.
Yeah, that was like originally a $60 or $70 whatever the full retail price was for that one.
For a physical copy too. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah, and obviously I'm sure they've like released like patches and updates for it since the disc version, but it automatically downloads those. I was even tempted to they had that like 3D Little Big Planet game, that Sackboy's Big Adventure or whatever it's called. I forget the name of the game actually, but I almost grabbed that because a lot of the games on PS4 have like the little logo at the bottom that says PS5 upgrade available, and I thought, I guess I didn't realize that means it's just automatically included for free if you have a PS5. So I think I said that the other week, but so I've been tempted to grab because I was like, that the PS5 version of it used was like $40. The PS4 version was like $18, but obviously it doesn't have the PS5 version of it on the disc. So part of me was like, maybe I'll wait a little longer, see if that PS5 version dips a little. But yeah, there's enough games. Like, I want to get that Ghosts of, is it Tsushima?
Yokai.
Well, there's a new one that just came out, but there's the previous one too, was on PS4 and PS5.
Yeah, that was Tsushima. Yeah.
Tsushima, okay, yeah. That game just looks awesome. And I guess that series for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's enough exclusive-ish stuff, and then just like next gen console stuff that I don't have a PC strong enough to play. Right. But could, like you said, get like Monster Hunter Wilds, even though I know that game's not for me. But even stuff like I'd like to have like not the Resident Evil. Although actually I would like to have some of those like Resident Evil remakes and the newer ones in the series like 7 and 8. But what was the game I was gonna say? Shoot. Oh, the Final Fantasy VII remake. I would like to have that and check that out at some point.
It's good. Like, I know that I've picked it up and not, like, stuck with it a couple times now, but, like, I like it. It's fun. It's got, like, that kind of it feels like what Chrono Trigger wanted to do. In how, like, you know, you wait your turn to, like, kind of move your character around and still have the live combat, but it's kind of still automated and turn-based. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to describe.
Isn't Chrono Trigger just purely turn-based? I've only ever played a tiny bit of that one.
Yeah, but, like, it still takes place in, like, physical space, and, like, it's that ATB system that...
yeah, those, like, timers. Yeah. And yeah, I do love that though, how like, yeah, you see the enemies on the battlefield, but not only that, like the battlefield just is the world map. Like it just kind of like, I don't know, kind of goes, I don't even know if it kind of changes the aspect ratio or anything, but I always loved that about that game. Like it seemed like it just made it a little more immersive as opposed to just like, you know, I guess I'd rather run into actual enemies on the overworld map, but even that, when you just run into them and then it does some kind of spinning animation into a battle screen, it's just not quite the same. You know, I love that about Chrono Trigger, the little tiny bit that I have played.
And like that's the cool thing about like Final Fantasy VII Remake is that like you are just like exploring in a 3D space, and then you run into some enemies and you're fighting those enemies in that 3D space that you were in.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, like, when you're running up to an enemy or positioning yourself so that you're, like, attacking them from the optimal direction. And then, like, when you go into the attack menu screen from there, it does it in, like, super slow motion, kind of like bullet time while you're doing it. So it is blurring the lines between, like, it's still basically a turn-based combat system, but, like, you are actively menu diving into like otherwise like what would be like original Final Fantasy VII, like going into the magic menu, selecting this spell, like you're just doing that, but it's in 3D. Okay. Because
I've never really played the original Final Fantasy VII. I was gonna say at all, like meaning like I've played it a little bit, but I don't think I've ever actually played it at all, unless I bought it on my PS3 when they made like some of the PS1 games available to download, kind of almost virtual console style. Like I think about like Symphony of the Night and a few other things on there. But I'd have to fire up my PS3 and see if that was one of the ones I snagged.
I fired it up first on Switch when they released all of them on Switch. Like I had played 9 before because Glenn had it.
I forgot they released that. Yeah.
And so like I played when Glenn and I lived together, I played a bunch of Final Fantasy IX and really liked it.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit of 10, but I bought 10 for myself. So like I had played that because it was a little bit easier for me to understand.
Yeah.
And then I went back to Final Fantasy VII once it was on the Switch, and like that was interesting. I think it was way more interesting as like a historical artifact than I thought it was actually enjoyable to play.
That's how I feel it would be, going back, especially as somebody who's not a big, you know, RPG or JRPG fan as it is. So, you know, it's really got to have a good hook for me.
And that's the thing is that like I think like when the NES Classic came out, they put like Final Fantasy IV on that. And like so I played a bunch of that as well, and I think, or maybe it was 6. I think it was 6.
The Super Nintendo Classic, you mean? Or
the Super Nintendo Classic. I think that it was 6.
It would have been either 4 or 6, because 2 and 3 in America were 4 and 6 in Japan, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm pretty sure it was 6.
That one I think is considered to be a little bit more classic in terms of like, that just seems to be the one I hear people talk about on podcasts when I listen to like retro.
I mean, it's definitely the best one of that entire line, with like 4 being the other like contender. Like it's pretty much just those 2, which is helpful.
And makes sense why they were the 2 that got brought to North America as well, you know?
Right. Like I've played a bit of 2 and I've played a bit of 3, and like neither of them have really stuck in my head. Oh, I did just start playing another one. Maybe it's 5. Maybe I'm playing 5 right now. It's weird. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, like, but 7, Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's so easy to talk about every Final Fantasy game because they're all different and they all do different things, and you could talk about each one for forever. Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I even honestly, like, I would be tempted. I used to watch Steve play Final Fantasy 13 a little bit. And, like, in terms of, like, me, like, that seems like one that I could maybe get into because you are literally, for a lot of the game, you are just, like, running down hallways, essentially.
Yes.
Like, you don't have any choice of where to go, or you're just, oh, here's this path. And you're on, like, it's, you know, like just a little path on the beach, and there's water on both sides of you, and and then it goes to the left, and there's a little branching path to the right with just a little chest over there to get couple goodies, and then keep going along. And
dude,
there's no crippling choice paralysis.
I literally think it is in response to like the first person shooter being the dominant genre of that era. And like the idea of a campaign is just moving forward, like get to the next area, defeat all the enemies, move on to the next area. And it's like,
that's a good point.
Like it's an interesting, again, every single one you could talk about endlessly for. Like,
I don't know why that series, I guess just because of its popularity, I suppose. I can't think of another reason, but it's always kind of compelled me, even though I'm not a fan of the series or of the genre, or really any of the games that I have checked out in the series. Like, you know, I'm really not all that impressed. I think I bought 10 at one point and played a tiny bit of that. I own 12 still because I have like the Steelbook version, and just felt like I can't sell this one. But then it's like, why did I buy a Steelbook version of a game that I have never even touched any of the games in the series? I played a little bit of 8 back in the day. That's the one I've played the most of.
8's the
which
weirdest
I know is the one people
one.
hate. Yeah.
Like, which is great. Like, I got to play more of 8, but it does some really weird, like, leveling system where the enemies, I think, are always the same level as you.
Yeah, they level up with you or something like that. I just heard somebody mention that on a podcast, which I never knew back in the day.
And like, that's awesome. What a cool game.
It's an interesting concept, and it's the first game that I ever played. I never played at that point in time. I don't know if it was out yet or not, but I had never played Paper Mario, or I had never played Super Mario RPG or anything, which was out at the time. So I had never played an RPG that had turn-based but had like the action commands or whatever.
Right.
So with the gun blade where you could like pull the trigger right as you did your attack to do extra damage, like I thought that was kind of sweet. That was the first little taste of that I ever got, and I was like, ooh, that just kept me engaged enough. And I got at least through the first disc, I think, of that game, or close to it, and then gave up after that. I think it's got 4 discs, so probably nowhere near completing it, but
just a little bit of added complexity to like RPG mechanics is just so nice. Just a little bit of spice.
Yeah. I shouldn't say a decent amount, but I have like technically that little blue, like woolly, like Yoshi I have is like from Yoshi's Woolly World on the Wii U.
Which Lauren, by the way, found out about that, like, and she's like, that is the coolest thing that's ever existed. Like, why are your amiibos bullshit when you could have had a crocheted
stuffed animal? Yeah.